I have major news about the Menendez brothers case, some present day developments you don't want to miss, so make sure you stay until the end of this video. First, welcome back to Late Night Review. Let's jump into the latest batch of witness testimonies as this case continues to unfold. Yes, we know it's already unfolded, but for our review process. First up is Leslie Elmore. Leslie Elmore testified that she once saw Kitty Menendez at the pool running up and down the side of the pool with a stopwatch, urging Eric to swim faster. Now, according to Leslie, she never once heard Kitty praise Eric's performance. Those details just add more weight to the pattern we've already seen with all these other coaches and people who witnessed Mr. and Mrs. Menendez basically terrorizing or torturing, hustling Eric when he was swimming. So not a lot out of her testimony, just reiterating this, that many people saw this behavior. Next up is Barbara Howarth. Who is she? Well, she was Eric's 9th grade teacher. She was actually his 9th grade English teacher. She shared with the court that her class didn't meet in the same location every day, which actually caused Eric a lot of trouble keeping up with, because they would be in a different location, and so he would have a hard time remembering the last time that the class met up, where they would be meeting up next time. And she also said that Eric struggled to follow directions on assignments, and actually even once plagiarized word for word from a world journal. And when Barbara tried to address this with Kitty Menendez, Kitty refused to let her speak and actually accused her of making outrageous claims. It was only when Barbara physically showed Kitty the paper that Kitty shifted gears, and she ended up getting upset with Eric and accused him of damaging the Menendez's name. That's what we got out of Miss Barbara. Next up is Norman Paulson. That's this fine gentleman right here. He was Eric's math tutor and actually has a bachelor's degree and master's degree in engineering. And he described working with Eric, and he said that Eric was someone who frequently zoned out during lessons. He said in order to regain his focus, Norman said he would have to bang the table or pace back and forth or even hit the wall to snap Eric back into the room to focus on the work that he was trying to tutor him on. Next up is Skip Lowe. Skip Lowe was actually a talk show host, and he testified about an incident at a black tie event where he was actually seated at the table, like the same table as Mr. and Mrs. Menendez and the rest of the family. And according to Skip, Jose Menendez pinched Eric really hard and then called him a dummy when Eric tried to speak to a celebrity that Jose was in the process of talking to. Jose abused these boys everywhere, and I mean everywhere he went with his sons. Like, I don't even know how anyone, especially at this present day in 2025, could question or think that the Menendez brothers were lying about their abuse. Like, especially Miss Pamela Bonovich, which you're not seeing on the screen right now. Actually, let me just show you a clip of present day Miss Pamela talking about the Menendez boys, of them pretending or faking that they were abused. There's been so many witnesses in this trial that have come out and said they witnessed Jose abusing them. Like, this is in public. If this is what these parents are doing in public, that would give you the good indication or idea of what was taking place in private. So I have no problem believing Lyle and Eric's story or memories of what they experienced with their father and mother, abuse-wise, behind private doors.
There's a new generation that support the brothers.
People are looking at the case with fresh eyes.
2 kids don't commit this crime for money. There's people that believe I shouldn't spend the rest of my life in prison. That judge was determined he was going to get a conviction.
These kids went through some horrible things. I'm telling you now is all fake. And if you don't know it's fake, that pisses me off. Telling you now is all fake. And if you don't know it's fake, that pisses me off.
In my opinion, it's sad that she is still, present day, is still just saying like they are guilty, they are guilty, they are guilty. Yes, they are guilty of killing their parents. They have admitted this. Their reasons, in my opinion, were rational and logical and justifiable. Continue to be like, no, they do not deserve to be let out. It's just like, why are you even in the justice system, working within the justice system? The whole purpose of putting someone in jail or prison is to hopefully reform them, fix their behavior so when they come out, they change and aren't committing crimes when they come out. The way Pamela sees the justice system, I think, is honestly a travesty to the justice system and to anyone who has committed some type of crime and been convicted and jailed. I mean, there are many people who are in prison now who keep coming up for parole to be let out, and the parole board continues to say, no, you're going to stay in jail, even though they've met all the standards that were set for them to be released. And I think that is disheartening and sickening. And honestly, in my opinion, once that person dies, they are going to have to answer to God for why they were so unjust to this person. And I like to say, they better hope that God doesn't judge them at the standard they have judged others, because I bet you their standards would change really quickly if they were held to their own standards. That's just a side note, so let's get back to this. Next on the stand is Miss Katie Waylands. She is the sister of Kevin Waylands. Let me show you a picture real quick. Okay, this is Kevin Waylands. I don't know if you remember him. He is one of Eric's friends. He was the one who picked up Eric from the airport and then took him to their house and then met this computer person. I don't know if you remember this. I think it was from actually our last video that Kevin was on the stand, as well as Kevin's mother. They were both on the stand. So defense brought Katie onto the stand. I think she was brought on to reinforce the testimony of her mother and her brother. There wasn't a ton of new information that was brought from her testimony, but it did help solidify the previous witnesses' accounts, which were her mother and her brother. Mr. Kiriyama tried to, hang her on a couple things, specifically a note that her brother had held up when they went to go visit Eric in prison. And as you probably know, you can't just sit across the table from the prisoners. There's a glass between you two and you have to hold the phone and talk. So she described how they had went visit Eric in prison. Her brother Kevin wrote up a note and held it to the window because, everything that you're talking through on the telephones, all of that is recorded. So he had wrote up a note saying, do you need me to testify? Eric had just shrugged his shoulders like, I don't know. And so then he had put it in his pocket and then took it home and apparently had put it into his dresser. And so here we are at this court date and this note is brought up in court. It just so happens that Kevin went home and was cleaning out this drawer and had just previously, not long before, thrown it actually into the trash can. And after he was in court that day, he went home and dug through the trash can and pulled it out and was like, here is the note. And so they took it to court and were like, hey, this is truly what we said. This is truly what I asked Eric. And of course, Mr. Kiriyama was like, oh, so you guys just happened to find this note these years later? Miss Katie was like, yeah, that is what happened. I was actually in the room with my brother talking to him about this whole case. And when he found it in the trash can, and it was just like, wow, this is really here. And so then he questioned Katie about the steps that took place in order for this piece of paper to show up now. And I say her story aligned with Kevin's. Truly does sound like that was legitimately the piece of paper that he had taken with him that he had shown to Eric through the window. This fine gentleman right here is Douglas Doss. He's actually the director of tennis at the California Country Club and was Eric's personal coach. And he actually shared that he often witnessed Jose Menendez yelling at Eric. You know this story already. Hit harder, which echoes similar stories we've heard from other coaches. I know this just continues to be compounding testimony. This was Jose's MO. This is what he did. Douglas also mentioned that actually knew Craig Signorelli. So if you remember, this is Craig Signorelli. He is the one that's going around saying that he was at the Menendez home during the time this computer expert went to the home, where Kevin has said no, he was not there. But this is the guy, and he's also the one that we also heard Kevin's mother telling us that he was bragging to her, saying that he was going to make millions of dollars because he had sold his screenplay to his attorney or something, and he was going to make millions of dollars because he claims he knew everything about this murder situation. So Douglas knew Craig Signorelli. Craig was actually bragging to him, another person Craig was bragging to, about getting a book and movie deal about the case. And Douglas actually told Craig to shut his mouth because the facts aren't out. And Craig told him, yes, they are. I know the facts, and attempted to tell him the facts. But Douglas told him, well, you don't know that. So Craig, of course, claimed he did, but Douglas wasn't having it. So he basically told him to shut up. Douglas sounds like a pretty legit guy. He doesn't want to just jump to conclusions and believe everything he's hearing. Just stay calm, wait till the facts come out. I'm sure probably some of what played into his head is the fact that he did witness how Jose treated Eric on the tennis court. So I'm sure he was probably just like, well, let's find out what happened first, because I've seen the abuse firsthand. So maybe that's what played into it, or maybe he's just a fair person and just like, hey, let's wait till the facts come out before we go jumping to conclusions and start making movie deals. Next one up here is Mary Teresa Dominguez. And she originally helped the previous owner of the Elm Drive home, which is the home where the murders took place. She originally helped the previous owners of the Elm Drive home move out, and was actually subsequently hired by the Menendez family to help move them into the home. Quick warning, make sure if you don't want this graphic information heard by your youngsters, please have them leave the room. Not a lot, but just please have them leave a room or mute the TV. Okay, so she testified that she saw stacks of adult magazines, specifically male-on-male content, in both the massive 8-person shower and the home library. And prosecution's Mr. Kiriyama tried to argue that those magazines probably belonged to the previous owner, like Elton John or some band member that had rented the home for a while. But Mary was adamant that the magazines were not there when she was helping the prior resident pack up, which was neither of the two that Mr. Kiriyama was trying to allude to or tried to pin those magazines to. She had helped just the previous owner and said those magazines weren't there before, and she didn't see these stacks of male-on-male magazines until she was helping the Menendez family move in. And next on the stand is Lyle Menendez. We're finally going to get to hear from Lyle. That's right. Lyle Menendez finally took the stand. We'll hold off on his testimony until next video because there were several days of his testimony. So it's going to be a lot. It'll probably take a couple videos to cover his testimony. But let me just say, it's shocking, eye-opening, and actually it's a little traumatizing, to give you warning, but it's pretty emotional, and I can't wait to break it down for you. Now for that news I promised you at the top of this video. So I learned that Lyle and Eric Menendez have officially received the green light for a resentencing hearing. So despite a 3-hour argument against it by the district attorney, Nathan Hochman, this is huge, ginormous leap for Lyle and Eric. Possible release. I am feeling incredibly hopeful that the brothers have a real chance of getting out of prison with time served, or by midsummer, late summer, I don't know, but fingers crossed. I really hope they get out soon. But beside that, if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. If you're not up for dropping a comment tonight, that's okay. If you're not subscribed, subscribe, because I do often post questions or comments to the channel, outside of videos. And so you can actually get updates on some of these cases or leave your comments to the questions I'm proposing to you guys. So with that, until next time, have a good night, everybody. Bye.